Good morning, I'm Pastor Andrew here at Northwest Bible Church. I've been writing blogs here for the last year or so and decided to switch it up and kind of switch to doing a vlog. So I've been here at the church since 2015 serving as a full-time youth pastor. One of the big things that are important to me, especially when you work with teenagers, is how do we apply this knowledge that we're learning from the Bible in our actual life? Because a lot of times it's easy to pick up the Bible, study God's Word, read these accounts of these people that lived thousands of years ago, and go, oh, they made it through okay, or luckily they had Jesus with them. And oftentimes we see that they mess up just like you and me. And so one of the things and purposes of when I teach or when I write is to make our faith and make the Bible personal, that it's something that I can apply to my life on a daily basis. And I feel one of the biggest ways that we can grow as Christians is seeing how God is impacting our life on a daily basis and how we can see ourselves growing and maturing in our faith. A little bit about me, though. I grew up in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. I was born and raised in the Evangelical Free Church. And I was fortunate enough to where I had two parents that valued church, that they were both believers, and going to church on a Sunday morning wasn't an option. I can count on one hand the amount of times I missed church growing up, and not because it was a requirement, but it was because it was something I wanted to do, something that I felt that was an important part of my life. I was saved at a young age. I was saved through our Church Awana program in elementary school. So starting out young, knowing how important my faith was and that I always wanted Jesus to be the center of my life. Starting off young, it's been a blessing in my life to kind of see how God has developed me over the years, seeing God growing in my life, and I'm ultimately growing in Him. And like I said, grew up on the northwest side of Chicago, going to church, have two parents that love the Lord, that raised me to love the Lord. And I was given many different trials growing up, but the biggest one was my 2008, my father got notice that he lost his job in Chicago and was unemployed for a good year or so. And I'll never forget him coming into my room and telling me that he'd gotten a new job in Kansas City, Missouri. And about the only two things I knew about Kansas City, Missouri was that it was somewhere out in Kansas somewhere and that their baseball team was terrible. And I was upset. I was not just upset with my dad, but I was upset with God more than anybody. That why would you allow this to happen to me, God? Why would you take me out of everything that I know, the things that I'm comfortable with, my friends, my family, everything that I knew was in Chicago. And I was now going to move out to this little podunk town called Kansas City. And he moved in the beginning of 2008, and my mom moved in the middle of 2008, and then I ended up having to graduate a semester early my senior year, and I eventually moved in January of 2009. And again, a lot of anger was built up towards my family and built up towards God. But at the time, I knew that I wasn't going to be in Kansas City very long. I was leaving for college, and I started my college education up at Bethel University. So I went to Bible college for 2 years up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Again, it was a time that I kind of wanted to go up there, but also I was essentially trying to run away from God, run away from my parents, try to almost give in to that anger, just kind of take myself out of that situation back in Kansas City. And God threw another wrench in my life. My freshman year of college, I got a phone call in March that my dad had suffered a major stroke, and changed my life forever. I knew that it was time to grow up. I'm no longer able to really be a kid anymore. It was time to take care of both my mom and my dad. So over the course of the next few months, my freshman year of college in 2010, I had to grow up a lot with that, and also I joined the Army, as that was going to be taking a center stage in my life of serving in the Army National Guard. So Again, came home for a month or so, took care of my dad, took care of my mom, went to basic training that summer, went back to college and did my sophomore year, and realized that living 8 hours away from home was a little difficult when you had two parents that you needed to take care of. And going to private school wasn't exactly the cheapest option out there. So my junior year, I transferred Guard units, transferred to the Missouri National Guard, and I transferred to Missouri State University down in Springfield, where I continued to pursue my bachelor's degree in history and with a minor in world religions, which gives me a lot of desire to understand, get a deeper understanding of culture, get a deeper understanding of kind of the context of what's happening. Again, something that I value when I study God's Word and when I teach, to make sure that people have the context of why things are written the way they are, who wrote them, the audience that it was given to, that it was written to. So I graduated college in 2013. I moved back to the Kansas City area, where I married my wife Anna, who went to college up in the University of Nebraska up in Lincoln, which was ironic that Kansas City was also halfway between where we went to college. So we came back, got married in 2013, and she began studying nursing, and I began my seminary degree down at Calvary University, working on a master's in divinity. Over that time, though, I was really trying to figure out what God wanted for me. Kind of, I finished college, which everybody was told, oh, you go to college out of high school. Now what? Now what am I supposed to do? I have a bachelor's in history, which doesn't really matter. So, trying to really find out, God, what do you want me to do with my life? I got a job at City Union Mission, which is one of the most humbling positions I ever had, and began serving God in a full-time aspect there and working on a master's in divinity. At the same time, though, I was asked by my church here at Northwest if I'd be interested in wanting to help the youth pastor that we had at the time, kind of be his assistant and start working with teenagers. I don't really have anything real plugged in yet at the church, so Ian and I, we prayed about it, we talked about it, decided, hey, might as well do that. So we started, working on forming relationships with the teenagers, getting to hang out with the kids, and it was really kind of cool to now be, instead of being in that mentee phase of life, now kind of to be a mentor with these kids and sharing life experiences, sharing, hey, yeah, when I was your age I did the same thing, or I messed up in this way and this is how I got through, and really formulating these relationships with these teenagers and seeing that these kids need somebody, and they need people in their life that are willing to take the time out of their life and just pour into them. In 2015, a couple years later, that youth pastor, he stepped down and decided that it was time to move on, do something else. And he asked me, with the blessing of the church, if I'd be interested in kind of serving as the interim youth pastor. Again, prayed about it, talked to Anna about it, decided that that is in fact what God wanted us to do. And so at the beginning of 2015, I started working as the interim youth pastor full-time while working full-time. So life was pretty crazy those first few months, but it was really cool to see these kids develop, seeing these youth kids, seeing them kind of at the beginning and seeing them slowly, accepting their life, accepting Christ into their life, and seeing them grow and mature. In 2015, though, in May, the church offered me the full-time position. I've been working here in a full-time aspect ever since. And again, seeing these kids now, seeing those first couple of waves kids now in 2019 graduate, and seeing them go off to college, get married, and getting to do a couple of their weddings has been really, really cool to just see them go from these teenagers into full-blown adults now. And knowing that Anna and I, we were a part of that, and that we still have relationships with them. They still call us and text us in the middle of the night when they have questions about the Bible, and again, just getting to minister to them and getting to see God still work in their life. And being able to provide opportunities for them, allowing God to work in their life, taking our kids all over the country on missions trips, taking them to Colorado to share Anna and I's joy of skiing with them, we took them to Mexico a few years ago, and watching these kids appreciate what they have and to really have a divine understanding of who God is and how God provides for us, whether we think He does or not. So as we start a new year in 2020, one of my big goals that I'm going to try to work with our teenagers, work with our church, is asking yourself the question of, how can I serve God this year? What can I do to build a ministry, to get plugged into a ministry, to make sure that God's word is being spread? How can I, in 2020, in the Kansas City, North Kansas City, Parkville area, do a better job of communicating the gospel and providing a need for the local people? So as we spend the rest of this week and next week, ask yourself that question as the year starts. How can I serve better? How can I have a better servant's heart? How can I have a heart like Paul, the Apostle Paul, that gave up everything to go and serve and have a love and a desire to reach the lost? So again, I challenge you that this week. Thank you.